tried to do this coding project. As a software developer, I tried to use the robots, and by the end of it, got a little bit too attached. And when I need to shut it down, this feels weird. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Refresh Step, where you recover yourself for the main step. I'm your host for today, tomorrow, and a foreseeable future, Theodore Lu. And I'm with Autos Battler in the UK, and I'm with Autos Battler's English Wiki. Ayumu Seiki, that is what I would have said if he is here today. But yeah, Ayumu as usual is having his, deserved break. So we'll let him off this time. Yeah, so... yeah, actually, like this week we are planning to kind of like visit back the deck list that we shared for PS75, especially since it's around 5-6 weeks have passed since then. Back then we say that we'll test this for like 2-3 weeks and we'll get back to you guys, but like in the end, life happened. We did take more time with that, so but at the very least because as if you guys notice in the description box, if you are listening to this on YouTube, we do have a sort of Discord server. It's not really a time gaming server, it's just a Discord server that I happen to create during COVID, just so that people from around the world can play remotely. We do have some members from the US as well. We mostly from Southeast Asia. It is a very chill in a way that we are pretty much here to just gather once a month just to play Fell Spirits in that one weekend. And the problem recently was that because I work in gastronomy, so I work in a restaurant as to support my job search, so it has been a little bit hard to kind of like get the Saturday off, but thank goodness people were down to do it on Sunday as well. So at the very least, the decks that I have explored, at least one of them, I have tried to use it in the two tournaments that have happened in February and March. So for better or for worse, they are battle tested for real. So yeah, first of all, I did say that I wanted to try Morrigan and Indra, but I guess my mistake was I tried Indra first, and then after that my brain just melted, and then I tried to goldfish my Morrigan deck, and then I felt like, oh, something feels wrong. This doesn't fit like the way it did before. Like even though especially because I did not expect Bijojoyo to be that hard to get. Like the Ultra Manifest is actually like pretty finically to get. So I did get some boxes and I opened them and I got one Bijojoyo out of 3 boxes. Which is nice. But then I wanted to complete my collection, so I will try to get like the other 2 if possible. One thing is they are like 25 bucks each, so it's Singapore dollars, so it's around 20 something euro, which is on its own it's pricey, but like again that's about the management, so like what I get on the side of that. And then, but yeah, there's just no stock. So like, even if I wanted to pay, even if I'm willing to pay, I can't. So, what did I get instead of Morgan? You'll find out soon. So first of all, maybe as a review, I suppose this is going to be really small. So if you guys still have my deck list from last time, or I guess I will also upload them to Google Drive later, just like last time. You guys can kind of like follow along a little bit better. It's pretty much the deck list that I created. Basically just by reading the cards, looking at, okay, so which one sounds like it would work. So my initial list, like the I guess like the key points is I kind of wanted to keep it like pure time drive, especially since that's the thing with like the recent designer decks. They wanted you to kind of play with only cards that belongs to the family that the new family that they created. So pretty much if they want you to play time drive, then everything basically works with time drive. So at first I just made it all time drive, making sure that it's smooth first, and then like we'll see what other attacks we can put, with the exception of Reset Sphere, because that's my favorite card ever, and I feel like one of the thing that made me like Indra is basically if you can get Vajra Worm, then Vajra Worm, if it's not disturbed, then you can basically like get like 4 cores, up to 4 cores in the turn that it manifested. That way, you pretty much would have enough cores to play Reset Sphere in its full power. Because like by the time you can manifest Vajra Worm, then you will be at least at 4 counters. That's pretty much how the deck works. So you will be able to play Reset Sphere in its fullest. And yeah, I guess like that's basically the only deck that I put in is just Reset Sphere and Gigotul. And after that, after a lot of consideration, after like lots of discussion, like I guess like Ayumu also like shared his own version. He basically like shared his own opinion as well. And after like I reread the cards, I was like, I guess like some of the cards doesn't really work the way I thought it would be. And then also like, yeah, I kind of wanted to go in blind, but in the end, it's the internet. I opened Twitter, everyone is posting their Indra deck, so like okay, fine. I saw people's deck and then like, I guess like okay. Now maybe my thinking was a little bit too naive. And then especially like think like it was the Extreme League where I first like find out that okay, well, maybe the deck wasn't as like, it doesn't need to be like all time drive like as I thought it will be. Like okay, like maybe the correct term is like if you are not locked to time drive pretty much. Although like yeah, some if you are that unlucky and then you can if you have like the Mada Vajra, it's also like the one thing that I still can't do is basically like pronounce their names because they are like all over the place in a way. Not really sure how to address that. Probably should have read their name in English, especially because it's there's a lot of adjacent sounds. So yeah, that's why I'm probably wouldn't really bother like reading the names, except for Vajra Worm and probably Grand Sagitonova. So yeah, especially since I think like it's thanks to the Extreme League like pretty much okay. So maybe I have to change my thinking a little bit because like surprisingly. And the thing that I like about the deck, like, is, even though it's aggro, like, unlike Ra, like, which previously with Ra, you pretty much will bring, like, maybe 8 to 11 copies of Child Sphinx. And you basically do deploy Ra, deploy your first Nexus, and then you summon your first Child Sphinx, and then, like, you basically just do Child Sphinx with the rest, and then you just add them into Segmentum, just so that you have access back to your core that is locked by Child Sphinx, and then you can do even more attacks. That is pretty much the aggro play for Ra. Don't know why, but like with Ra, they also give you like lots of options to defend. I don't know, like I guess like because I usually play mid range, I gravitate toward that card, and like my build basically becomes really slow for Ra. But I think like Indra in a way, it is aggro, but like it does allow you to go like into like later turns, especially since we do have Grasa Nova, which pretty much if you bring it to the late game, then you can pretty much do that like one last one or two damage just with that one card, which is pretty nice. And like the searcher basically also pops off after at least turn 2. So like basically your turn 1 is not that different. So there's also the added benefit of like Indra being a contractor. So that's also what Ra is lacking. Like Ra pretty much if you have a contractor in Ra, I think like it will pretty much helps a little bit. It will probably like Ra is also your main way to kind of like make sure you inflict damage, because Ra gives unblockable to your cost 2 and 8. But I guess like once you get like that first symbol on your field, if you can put on 2 symbols on your turn 1, that's even better. Basically, your contractor and your another nexus, or you set on a burst, and that's something that your opponent can trigger, and you can't remove your contractor on your first turn. Then you pretty much have access to all your cores to use all of the child swings in your hand, and that would have been perfect. But and I suppose like at first I thought like the cost 1 would be like super important, because not only with that one cost 1 reduction, that because like the cool thing about Indra is that it gives all of your turn drive an extra reduction. That is like way bigger than I thought it would be. It's like that's why I feel like the cost 1 should have been at 3, because like with the cost 1 at 3, like even though the effect itself is still really strong, and as a mirage it can protect your Indra from destruction, like the most important thing is that it's your starter. So basically, even if you go second, you go Indra, and then you summon the cost 1 dragon, and then you can basically go into the cost 2 dragon, and then you can go to the nexus, and you can summon another cost 3 pretty much. Although like even though in the end I took out like that only cost 3 that has 2 reduction, so then I have to pay 1. So I feel like also like the cost 3 manifest is also like really good, because pretty much if you do it on your first turn, if you don't have any other place, at the very least it gives you like 2 counters, it gives you a draw, also it gives you a core that you can use for next turn. So like even if it got destroyed, then the 1 extra cost that you have to pay is pretty much offset by the 1 core that you get from the manifest. So this is pretty much how the deck looks now. I took out a lot, and I think like one of like the main point of like the turn drive cards that I utilized is the Magan no Vajradra. So that guy, don't know why, like at first when I read the effects, I don't really fancy it. Maybe because I am in the mindset that okay, like what if my opponent doesn't have any nexus? And I guess I was like being too worried, because like even though I bring 3, like even if my opponent doesn't have nexus, like even if it clumps my hand at that point, if it's like still like turning to like my hand will probably like be full of like other cost 5 anyway. Like I bring like 3 kinds of cost 5 in this deck, so like like any of this cost 5 will like lock my hand anyway. Like I will still pay 4 to summon it, so like what's the difference? And if I can deploy all of my Indra, then basically like I don't even need to deploy all of my Indra. If I can deploy at least like 2 Indra, then that guy will be like 5 cost 4 reduction, which is still acceptable to get you like a draw every time you attack. And the cost 2 dragon is definitely still feels way better to use than the cost 1. So like the cost 1, I still bring it at 2. I can just follow other people, but like in the end, like when I tested, it just feels right. I think like because like in the mid game, like the cost 2 can get you draws, can also like negate your opponent's nexus, but like the cost 1 in the mid game, like you pretty much just either net 1 for the Mirage, or just to trigger the cost 2 pretty much. So like yeah, I guess like it's a very good card to get on your first turn, but not really good. It doesn't really feel as good when you get into like in your later part of the game. Although I think like I do have one. Yeah, I think like along of like this 10 something games that I played with this deck, like there are like one single one where if I get like anything to hit, then I can win. But like I didn't even get like the cost 1, so it's not really exclusive to the cost 1. But yeah, and as a retrospect, because like I feel like what I learned from other people is mostly that yeah, this deck is also, because like this deck is kind of like in a way it's kind of like also a snowball if you want to go to the mid game. Because like yeah, like ideally and pretty much almost every game you should be comfortably able to finish the game in turn 2 or turn 3. Because by then, if you go past that, like your lower cost will then have as much value as the higher cost spirits that your opponent will be able to deploy. But yeah, if you want to go to the mid game, pretty much still can, thanks to Vajra Worm pretty much, and Grand Sagitto Nova. Although yeah, if you guys watch the grand final, yeah, there's one unfortunate situation that when Yun Yang wanted to block Chantress Nova with Grand Sagitto Nova, he was able to get like Grand Sagitto Nova on its highest level, which has like 32 PP, and then like his opponent Guro pretty much just casually like plays Starry Draw to increase the PP of Chantress by 10,000, and then just pretty much kills Yun Yang there and there. Yeah, unfortunately, like unlike most yellow deck, you don't really. I don't think you have like as much value like bringing stuff that can lower the opposing PP. Maybe at most you will bring, let's say, Isfil XV. That's kind of your choice. I think like yeah, that's also why like I still kept Gigotul there, because Gigotul pretty much helps you to get through like other more like risky aggro. I think like thanks to Indra being yellow, like like most yellow, like I think unless you break really hard, like you can pretty much just swing 3 and then like you can still have enough to kind of like defend yourself to connect to the next turn and then like do it again. And that yeah, I think like the game that I mentioned earlier is that one. So like yeah, that's like with aggro, like yeah, in the end, if you still have like one card to connect your draw, you can kind of like do it again in Modern Battle Spirit. So like yeah, that's also why in the end like I bring the Isle. Yeah, I think like the Isle we discussed it. I think we discussed it like somewhere along the way, because she's just really good if you are going if you're like breaking on the turn 2 going even if you go second, even if you go I mean like we are going second and then on your turn 1, because if you do Indra, then if you get at least like 2 yellow at 2 of any symbols, then you can pretty much just bring out the IL at 2 costs, and then you charge 1 on Indra, you get 2 cards. Which is really nice regardless. So you bring her with the mindset that she is pretty much cost to draw magic in a way. Which to be fair also, like when you only have her and Indra, if your opponent has an access, then you also have an access to your Magan Phaedra, which is also nice, because Magan Phaedra, when your opponent has Nexus, it will be a 3 cost 3 reduction. So like the IL on level 2 will also give you enough symbols to summon it at full reduction. And of course, like the cost for like the one that can retrieve 2 Thunder from your trash is kind of like the MVP. And the Master Rare, the cost 3 Searcher, yeah, I now, after I play it, like I know why it is a Master Rare. I always forget that it has that effect to protect your spirits. I think like I lost one game literally just because I forgot about it and I didn't keep it on my field. And yeah, I have like 5 lives because it's still like turn 2 and my opponent was a combo deck, so they don't attack. They don't really. I know it's still my turn 2, so it's my first turn of like attacking. Wait, I was like talking about my own life. So yeah, my opponent didn't really attack because they kind of want to set up first. And yeah, if I had kept like the cost 3 there, I would have been able to protect my Vajra Worm. Which, again, Vajra Worm, like it's best. I bring it mostly just for the corpus. I never expected it to be able to stay alive for its own effect. But like, damn, like Vajra Worm's effect is actually like really crack. Like it is the part that made Thundrive like really shines. Because if you have the Searcher, if you have Vajra Worm, and then you have Magan Vajradra, then pretty much basically like every time someone finish attacking, then you can basically just summon a new one. If you can attack with your Vajra Worm and gain the 2 extra cores, that will be even better. And yeah, if you don't have enough power, then you can basically just fill it in with Grasajito Nova. I think like the game plan itself still doesn't change. I just change a lot of utility. Like High Isle is surprising like really popular among the people who plays Indra. Because yeah, I guess like during your again, like because you can easily like rebuild your build if you have like the cost 2, and if you have the cost 2 or if you have the cost 2, the cost 4 that the cost 4 or like the Searcher, then you can pretty much like easily rebuild your field, so you don't really, if your attack has vanished, then you can basically just use High Isle to clear your own board in a way, and then just shut down one of the opposing Grandwalker Nexus, which is a nice thing to have. And then Trickster is surprisingly like I just wanted to try it out because like I feel like this is personally this is my own personal thinking. I don't think it's a representative of like what aggro should be, because like I don't play as much aggro, but I feel like because aggro you will be attacking with like lots of small spirits, I was just looking into an alternative on what can get you like the most value if your spirits got destroyed. Of course, like I guess like if Thundrive got like their own spirit that has like a burst that can activate when your spirits are destroyed in the next set, like depending on the effect, it might change the Trickster. And I just bought this Trickster like I literally just tried to buy it for the meter deck. I didn't really think too much about it, and then when I was building my deck, because it all came in one package, I was like, huh. I mean, like you do have to choose between like drawing 2 or like salvage 1, but like in the very early game, if you try to aggro and then you fail, and then you draw 2 and then you get like the cost 4, that will have been pretty nice. So I tried to put it in, and yeah, it's actually like really it is as nice as I thought it would be. So like yeah, I guess like I have to give it to Ayumu now. He has good taste in like waifus. So yeah. And yeah, Thunder Counter is something that people kinda like shy away. I guess like in the end, like I guess like at most like people will bring 1. I also feel like at first like yeah, maybe we can bring like, we don't really have to bring like too much of Thunder Counter, because again like Thunder Counter is kind of like a timing thing. Like when it shines, it shines. When it doesn't, when your opponent has like too much spirits, then it kinda because like you can only target 1. But you also, although your opponent will know it, like you also have the option to kind of like salvage it at the cost 4. Like then, even though your opponent will have to change their play a little bit, then you can also adjust to that. Like, okay, so like now you kind of know that your opponent will probably not attack with only one spirit, and you can kind of like adjust from there. Reset Sphere is a non-negotiable slot, so it's still there. And then like, yeah, I guess like again like because like this is an aggro deck, right? Like you don't know like how much resource you will have. That's why in the end, I use the good old Blizzard Wall LT, which if I have any symbol on the field, it can be played at cost 4. If it is in my trash, then it can protect me from attacks from that one turn. Which, yeah, I mean like your opponent can still use effect, but like with how many effects are like preventing you from stopping the attack step now, I guess that's still like pretty reliable. And then like because like you do have Indra and you probably wanted to do the Neo Core Charge every time, just so that you have more options to salvage. Yeah, the Blizzard Wall 10 has like a second value. Also now you have Chaos, so kind of like Blizzard Wall is also something that you can use. Especially since you do have Ego Tool there to heal one. And I suppose I am trying to put in Wild Callus because it's just on the same tier as High Isle. So like it's kind of like okay, so like the deck itself is kind of like snowball. So like if I put Wild Callus in my hand on first turn, that will be very bad. But like if I just draw it while I'm rolling, like it can pretty much like help me to kind of like stop my opponent for like putting a damper on my field pretty much. Because like if I play Wild Callus, then I can pretty much shut down Alex. I can shut down Pharaoh. Stuff that needs to be summoned for them to be threatening for the turn. And I guess like Wild Callus also has a heal 1 effect if I really needed to do that. Like maybe like against Chaos, maybe it can be a consideration that I might use Callus to heal to 6, just so that the Blizzard Wall can actually do something. Because then if the Blizzard Wall is in my trash, but my life is at 5, the more like Chaos on their kill turn will attack me at 4 symbols anyway. So like if I have like 6 lives and I can keep my life at 6 lives, then yeah, pretty much the Blizzard Wall can protect my whole field. It can protect my life for that turn. And the last one is King's Command. I think this is also something that I got inspired by Surah, I think, from the Extreme League. I think like he brought 3, but I was like, oh, maybe 3 is too much. I'll just bring 1 and see how it turns out. I mean, like, yeah, I guess it's also kind of like a meta call in a way. I guess like in a more meta environment, like King's Command will be triggered more often. In my case, it is not as often, I feel. But this is also a matter of just like the local meta, right? Like just because the people in my play group doesn't really play that much, like when summon effect doesn't mean that it is bad outright, but I can see the value. Also now, given like how the current state of battle spirits, like having a defense card that is not white is always kind of like can always be helpful. Especially since Thundrive pretty much allows you to summon a lot of spirits. So like unless your opponent can clean your whole board, like if you can block like the first attack, like the King's Command can pretty much protect your life, the rest of your lives. In I guess like 50 to 60% of the cases. Of course, like yeah, now that's the kind of like the dilemma or like the truth. Well, not truth. It's kind of like the reality that we have to live with in modern battle spirits is that you can choose any defense card and they will be decent for like 50 to 60% of the cases, and the other 40% on or 60 or the 40 to 50% is something that you kind of have to live with. If you don't bring the other alternative that can cover the other 50%, then you kind of have to just hope that your opponent you can finish your opponent before they finish you. You kind of want that, yeah. Probably like if I want to change anything, like anything that I want to try is definitely Delta Barrier. I think like, especially since Chaos is still a thing that is floating around, I think like it is something that we need to consider. Like having like a special keyword that can go through like the offensive of like one of the major like deck in the meta. I think it's although like that's technically good mostly only against Chaos. I think it's still a good thing to consider. And if we bring one, I think like we can still draw it anyway. So it's not that much of a problem like if we only bring one. Guess like that will depend on how prevalent, how helpful Thunder Counter could have been in that meta. The other ones is like pretty much the Thunder F card itself. Their utility doesn't really change from like the version 0. I think like except for like the Magan Fajra, the Magan Fajra. I think like I was pretty much spot on like how much they will perform, like the Indra Temple. I think like there are like there's another Thunder F Nexus that I was like contemplating on like putting inside the deck, but like yeah, there are like some games where it feels like it can be useful, but it was like also very niche situation. So like in the end like the temple still triumphs it just by the virtue of like if you go first and then you core charge and you drop the temple, then you can pretty much end the turn with 2 symbols. If you are facing against Petit Grow, then you can pretty much, well, it kind of depends on whether they draw their red field and such, but like at least for that one thing, you can pretty much ensure that when you go back to your team, you can have at least like 1 symbols that you can build your field with. I guess that's still a pretty nice thing to have. On top of that, you get the draw for the first attack that you make. And yeah, the rest is just the heal effect. The heal effect rarely triggers, but like when it did, it's just okay. That's a nice thing to have. I don't know. Yeah, I mean like especially because I don't bring Naraka. I think like Naraka, I kind of like for now I feel like she's not worth a slot for now. But I guess if you don't have Hayal, if you don't have Trickster, I mean like Hayal, Trickster, and Callus is definitely kind of like a free slot. I think like previously I tried to put in Monifile in Callus' slot. Never triggered her though. I don't think I ever triggered her once because like the moment I drew her, like pretty much my opponent was so discouraged from attacking, or I was able to defend myself with my other cards. Like there's not really a situation in which my opponent would hit me and then like Monifile can set down the burst that I drew and then like basically like giving me a defense against 2 attacks. Like that is like the concept that I have in mind when I tried Monifile. Because like I feel like with one of the other thing is like Indra mostly draws their cards during the attack step. So like I feel like having a burst like a hand trap that can activate when your life is reduced is something that can be useful. In that same vein, is probably why I think like Delta Barrier is a natural and it's supposed to be a natural entry into the deck. I don't know why it's not there yet. Probably like Burst Wall of Burst Flame or South. Yeah, like I think like people are moving away from Burst Flame and now it's more into Southern Cross Flame if you wanted to destroy something. So that's also something that you can try out as well. Don't know if I should be looking this deeply into aggro decks, but like yeah, this is the aggro that this is apparently is an aggro. So it is something that I spend a lot of time thinking. Yeah, surprisingly, like, because like I think like I lost like a total of twice. So like a total of twice. So like one of them is against Mill. They lock my they lock my attacks, and like they lock my attacks, and I wasn't aggressive enough, so I wasn't able to put in enough damage before they can kind of like completely lock me out of like attacking, and then they just outright like mill me like 30 in one turn. And then the other one is that is the game where I feel like I should have taken more risk. And also that game that is where I learned not to kill like the like the searcher, like the cost 3 master air searcher, because like of course like it still kind of depends on what he have left in his hand, but like I feel like if I had kept the cost 3 on my field, like at least my situation would not have worsened. I guess like because I could have kept my Vajra Worm on my field, and then pretty much I can still keep on attacking. Like because after that, I just don't have any defense that I can use because I like all of my cards is in my trash. So yeah, I literally have nothing. I have nothing, and it's my opponent is a one shot combo deck. So like yeah, I can't play anything. I was missing like literally one card if I have a Blizzard Wall even. I feel like at that time I felt pretty safe, and then like he just summoned something that sends the cards from my spirits to the trash. So I was like, oh okay. I was not safe. Like I thought like I could have played the Reset Sphere if I have to, but yeah. And I have a Thunder counter as well. And then, but like the thing is like he has 2 finisher. So like he plays a loop deck, and then like okay, so like you can choose to either lose by mill or by like a 5 damage attack, and then like I don't know if I can survive this, but like I feel like I can survive the 5 damage better. So I locked the mill finisher, and then like he attacked me with the high symbol guy, and then I was like, huh, do I have anything to play against this guy? Turns out no. Like in the end it's the same, but yeah, at least I was able to like at least try to fix the situation. It didn't work. Because like otherwise like I would have been I probably should have just at the bullet just reset sphere his whole field, and then just hope that he wouldn't have enough to kind of like rebuild his whole field and also finish me in the same turn. Probably a naive thinking. I don't it's probably a naive thinking, but I guess like at that point it's kind of like the situation in which like if I lose, then I'll bring my opponent with me at the very least. But yeah, I probably should have put this much. And after that one loss against Ino, actually. So yeah, I was like, oh, it got me thinking like, it's like because especially like this deck is it's allows me for more slots of like cards that are not undrafted I have than I first anticipated. So I was like, what else could I have tried? What else could I have put in? Because like I feel like with aggro, like people like I think like we like to think that if when we play aggro, we are not quote unquote thinking, because like the decision making is just really simple. It's whether to attack now or attack later. Mostly you will attack now because like the value of like your attacks in the later games will not be as like valuable as like the earlier turns. But I feel like with modern aggro and Battle Spirits, it's more into like you do all the thinking before the game starts. You have to finish the thinking before the game starts. You kind of have to choose the cards, build the patterns, and then when you actually play the game, you don't really think too much about like, should I go this way, should I search, or should I do this pretty much okay. Like, this is my situation. This is a pattern that I need to go with. Especially since if you are especially because in our tournaments now we are mostly playing best of 3 dual deck, and 1 hour to play 3 games of Battle Spirits. If you play like a combo deck, it definitely can get a lot of time. So it's also another consideration. I think like if I were to choose to play aggro, like the strategical value of like playing aggro deck is to give me more time to play with my decks that needs more time. So like if I have to think, if I don't finish my thinking like at the moment when I build a deck, then it will cost me more time, and I would probably lose from like very stupid reasons. Like I don't have blocker on my first turn, and I just lost on time, and I don't have enough life because my opponent has that one body. Like they also break, but they break with the cost 6 1 reduction attack, and it's just 5 against 4, and then like I lost. That would have been very sad. So like, yeah, I guess like that's also the value of like aggro in that sense. I guess like I will probably be keeping Indra as one of my decks for a while. Cause yeah, it is an aggro that I can work with, and then maybe like their decks is something else that I wanted to play for that month. And speaking of that, since I already spoiled that I wasn't able to spend time with Morrigan, I spent time with my older girls. As in like girls that I have like from long time ago. Because this is mostly just my Ice Princess deck. Because we get like a new Fremia, like the Ultra Manifest Fremia. Which at first like it does sounds really nice. It does sounds really nice just by the virtue of like, okay, Fremia, when she manifests and can pretty much trade my hand. So like, yeah, if I have like at least 2, then I basically have like 3 Clara in my deck. And then like I realized like people in my play group, they don't really play combo, so that doesn't really work. Like I think like even my Clara at best was like, okay, from 0 hand I go to 2, which is, to be fair, for white having like extra 2 hands is still going to be like really useful. Although there are some games where I just can't keep up. I feel like in the tournament, like I was getting like kind of cocky just because on the first round, like everything was just smooth sailing. Like I was able to get my curve like ready, and pretty much, I was just I was just picking up terminologies randomly, but pretty much I was able to keep my draw source, so I was able to keep my hand at like 5 to 6. And I have like at least 1 defense card in my hand, so like I was pretty much safe. I can just, if my field got clean, then I can pretty much just deploy another field afterwards. And I feel like after testing multiple times, like the value of Premia is less about, like the new Premia is less about like the Ultra Manifest itself. Of course, like the Ultra Manifest is still really nice, especially since although like I only have like 1 other manifest. I don't have the Master Rare, because I feel like I think like with the new Fremia, the Master Rare or like the extra Fremia would make more sense. Otherwise, you like removing your soul core kind of gives you a risk, because it's kind of risky in a way because you lost access to Grand Warden. And also like there are situations in which I will probably be that confident and that I will be able to flip my white world, so I will use my soul core to pay, so that I can return it with white world. But sometimes there are situations in which like, okay, so like I already planned that, and then like somehow my opponent was able to stop me from doing that. I can't refresh, and now my soul core is not returning. Then there's a backup in Premia. And in general, white is probably second to green in core boost. In core boosting, I think like now the 3 colors that core boost the best are like green, blue, and white. Green, of course, is like the one that can keep the curve of like core boosting like the easiest. White is usually more, in a way, it's heavier, so it's kind of like you get the core to kind of like mitigate the stuff, mitigate the summon, the high summoning costs, and then like with blue you kind of get rewarded for like building your field, but like green you can basically just core boost they just core boost by existing, but like you don't have that much hand. So like white is kind of like a sweet spot in which like okay, so like you have like a little bit hand, a little bit core. So like for the most part on your turn 2 or your turn 3 you will still be running on a pretty much like really really low, although you kind of have to finish your opponent there and there. That's pretty much why I also bring like 2 Harun and like 1 Agavia. Although like I don't know why like the Harun in the last tournament, she was like the MVP. Like every time I lost my field, Harun just revolves everything, and I and I was able to finish my opponent just nicely. But like every time I needed Agavia to perform, I was just checking blanks. Even though like Harun checks 2, Agavia checks 3, but every time I use Harun, I got something. Every time I check with Agavia, I check nothing. There's that one game where I like that became fatal, because then I was like because of that, like my opponent was able to play Bloodshed Blade, and I basically cannot continue my attack. I guess like in hindsight, I was because like I cannot inflict enough damage just because my opponent has I still have my white machine god. I probably should have just depleted the white machine god with Agavia, because like kind of forgot that the Bloodshed Blade existed. So yeah, that's kind of on me actually. But yeah, I think like if I have destroyed the thing, the white machine god, I probably could have. Yeah, I guess like I would only be able to inflict maybe at most 4 damage, even with Agavia. But still better than nothing, I guess. If I don't know if I have Grand Warden in my hand. I think like Grand Warden also, in the end, like in very niche situations, if you don't know what your opponent's defense card is, it still has like a value in which it has a double symbol still. That's a double symbol, so like your opponent probably, especially if your opponent is playing like Bloodshed Blade, like again, like you kind force them to kind of like play the Bloodshed Blade for its flash effect. Like then they would survive, they would still have 2 lives, yes, but then they will then have a Mibrok Baragan origin that can remove your field. I feel like that's like one of the biggest the one that hurts the most, because he has because of that Mibrok Baragan, he was able to clean my field, and then I was like kind of I was like being careful of his other Bloodshed Blade, so next time I got an Gravira, so I tried to increase the level of my Gravira, which turns out to be the mistake, because he only have like 1 life left, right? Because he has like no. I mean like he doesn't have like 1 life left, but like he pretty much was running pretty low. Like I guess like if I have kept like at least 1 more spirit on my field, could have changed a lot. And yeah, I learned that sometimes it doesn't matter if my opponent if my opponent kind of like have like an advantage that they can use later on, as long as I survive, because then I will still have more option to take through. Because I think like at that game, the move that cost me the most is I could have just bounced one of his Advent Spirit to the hand, and I was like, okay, so that thing can be used during my attack step. So I was like, and it can destroy like 2 of my fields. So I was like, should I? If I return it to the hand, then he will be able to do that again. Next turn, he will be able to stop my attack again. But like I did not really account that if I, on the other hand, like if I have written it to the hand, then it will have slowed him down like a little bit more. So I probably should have done that. And yeah, now I have to live with the regret That's also why I haven't posted. I was like, yeah, I've said to everyone that I will, I mean, like, if you notice, like, last Sunday before the tournament, I was like really gung ho. Yeah, I won it like last month. I would win it again, and I was just like, I just disappeared because I had to deal with like the frustration. Because that's how I cope with it. I just try to, well, distance myself from it a little bit. Because yeah, that was like, oh my goodness, I kind of have to find a way to not do that again. That was very, well, not embarrassing per se, but like that was very frustrating. I could have avoided that, but yeah, that's yeah, we live and we learn. So, and this deck is pretty much like, for the most part, it still has like lots of like the old parts. So I'm still happy that this deck from, well, where was the BS52 release again? It was that was PS50, like the newest old card in this set, in this deck is like PS55. Let's see when PS55 was released, because I think like when Ryza and Prihelia was introduced, that is pretty much when the deck kind of like takes shape for real. After that, it's kind of just okay. Like every new card is basically, what can we add to kind of like make this deck more stable? It is on 2021, so it's a deck from 5 years ago. Most of the, for the most part, 80% is not changed. It's just lots of it is just like deck stuff. I was like just trying out Arcade Lancer. It felt really nice on one single game, just because I was like, okay, I can attack twice with my Prihelia, so like what do I do so that this attack can inflict lots of damage? I just because I only have 3 spirits, right? Because so at that point I will be able to deal 4 damage. So how do I deal 5 damage? And then I just realized Arcade Lancer can gain the symbol for the turn, so I just exhausted one of my spirit, and then now I have 2 attacks that is 2 symbols. So like everything is done. I have the solution. I have the terminator solution that pretty much can get me through this. Yeah, that was pretty much the story about Arcade Lancer. Diamond Wall. I feel like some people are like start to opt like bringing like less Diamond Wall and more into like other stuff. I feel like Blizzard Wall will probably, yeah, nowadays like the art mesh still helps a lot. But I feel like also Blizzard Wall might be something that I can look into, especially since Silver Ore discards the card that it doesn't search. It might be something that can be considered. Delta Barriers, another one. Bloodshed Blade is something that I wanted to consider, but if you pay attention to my White World, it is not even the revival version. Because yeah, my budget is limited, and I guess like for this deck specifically, I think like if you play other decks, your situation might be different. But like for this deck specifically, I feel like using the old one is still fine. Of course, like the new one has like lots of like nice perks. I think like the when deployed effect is optional, which is already a big upgrade, and it can activate at 6 counter or less. Which again in this deck, it doesn't hurt us much. If anything, I wanted something that can lower my counter if anything is there. If the option is there, probably like anything that can lower my counter is will be more appreciated. Yeah, the gameplay itself doesn't really change. You basically just start your turn, start your game with Premia. I guess like after testing, I kind of understand why now people brings like one less Premia, because I feel like now with how fast the game is, like getting a second Premia and then like getting the Prihelia after that, it is already hard enough. Like, and then you kind of have to wait a lot until you can kind of like get value out of both Premia. But on the other hand, like when you snowball, when you snowball, then you can pretty much like have like stably above 5 cards in your hand, so like Premia will then trigger anyway. I feel like I can kind of see like why people are starting to bring like less Premia. Maybe instead like bring stuff that can have like more value, on the side. Maybe think like bring one of the Kizuna magic that can search for the rebirth card, or maybe just Shield of Ages might work. Just by the virtue of Shield of Ages being able to both protect Fremia, as well as like protect like one of the spirits that is attacking, because like nowadays sometimes like having a protection is already complicated, because now normally like Fremia will protect you from like red and purple effects, and then Clara will protect you from red and green effects. But sometimes it never hurts to have like another protection just in case. Auto Shield of Ages only protects from destruction might come in handy somehow, although it's still a white effect, so like not sure if it helps, but we'll have to test that as we go. And I feel like having stuff that can refresh on attack would also be helpful, just by the virtue of like, okay, so even if my opponent has the counter, I can flip my Rip Millennial Snow, I can flip my White World, so that I can keep like the number of my attacks. So like in that one case, probably could have kept my attack to like at least like 4 attacks. I'm still like I am still like letting the flames of revenge like burning in my soul. But mostly the other game plan is just like you go to Prehelia, try to finish your game there and there. If it's not possible, then you build up 4 cores on the Grandstone. I personally like bring only 1 Grandstone. Maybe I can consider like bringing more. I guess like the impact of like the Grandstone versus White World on like the later turns, something that I need to weigh around. Although like White World, you kind of wanted to bring as much as possible, just so that you can bring it, you can just see it early. Because like White World, if you can flip it, then first it gets you to 2 counters. It gets you, it takes like 1 card from the 2 cards from the opposing hand. If you use like both Fremia and Vina, most likely you will be able to do that. And then also because it's a cost 6, it brings back your Soul Core, so it gives you access back to your Grand Warden as well. So you don't have to advent Grand Warden on your Ice Princess, so you can keep their protections effects as well. Cause like if Grand Warden got destroyed, if Grand Warden got bounced, like fine, it wouldn't hurt your gameplay as much. Maybe less Rip Millennial Snow, more Grandstone. Although Rip Millennial Snow is kind of like an alternate thing that you can have, because just by the virtue of like Vina now can run a little bit better, because we don't have as much Izanagi. It's kind of like a trade-off. Like if you do face Izanagi, then she will be a doorstopper. But if you are like fighting against all other decks, Vina is still like a really decent. You basically just pay 1. You practically just search for 1 inside the stack, and then you can have like 1 single refresh everything. I feel like this experience is a little bit harder to explain than Indra in a way, because like Indra is just although like both of them is like Indra is aggro, you just collect 5 and then you attack. But like with Ice Princess, it is more my build is more into mid range. I think like if you talk to someone like Hendra, who will prefer to build it do more like control, try to like keep kind of like a stable build, just have everything protected, and then like open the grandstone, and then like just start, and then you start attacking. If your opponent tries to do something, then you basically just, yep, end my turn, do it next day. Yeah, it's a deck from like 5 years ago, but I feel like it's still flexible enough even now. Speed wise, yeah, I guess it can still be improved. I mean, like, it does get an ultra manifest now, but why not give it more stuff? Let's give it more stuff. Yeah, I think I can definitely give it more stuff. Why not? And yeah, if you want to try it out as well, like, everything is still printed in Report of Legends anyway, so like, you don't really have to dig through all like the old stuff. That's the joy of like playing Japanese card games. If you wanted to play decks from like 5 years ago that is still somewhat decent, I think like if Indra is somewhere in like tier, probably Indra is probably in tier 2 in a way, just because it's aggro. This experience is probably around 3 to 4. That's because it's a little bit slower, but it is a mid-range. Like, you can still like finish the game pretty early, but it kind of like, it does like just by the virtue of it being white, like, it's not going to be as reliable. But I still feel like it's a pretty decent deck, and I really like it because it has Princess. So I would like to invite you to play as Princess as well. I think like, yeah, but also like, I think like people in my play group, like in the Battle Club, like, we rarely like play like the tier 1 stuff anyway. So I guess if you wanted to try out like and again, like Modern Battle Spirits, if you play against anything in a tier in a numbered tier, you probably should not be just because your tier is higher, you probably shouldn't think that you are guaranteed to be safe, because even if the deck is not tiered, usually the problem is like just speed. Some decks like Mad Hatter, like you have this variant of Mad Hatter Mad Hatter and Usubaka Gero, which pretty much can end the game with just 3 cards on turn 2. So like, that's something. You have Destroya, which is an aggro deck, which is just summoning 5 Destroya and then like attacking, and like the aforementioned like Ra that I talk a lot when I was talking about Indra. Yeah, so there are lots of decks that are like, probably they are not in number tier anymore, but like when they pop off, like you better pray to God that you have the one single out to that. Because like the other day, like in the tournament, I was playing against a Fruit, so it is the Fruit Soul. So it is a deck that was that was meta in PS 36 to 39, I think. Even until PS 40 to 41, I guess they are still like really strong. They fell out of fashion because the card that made them from strong to broken got limited to 1. Because the good thing about like Fruit Soul is like, you have their extra that can. So basically, the main mechanism of Fruit Soul is this ability called Multiply. So when a Fruit Soul is summoned, you can open the top 2 cards of your deck. And then you can summon 1 card with the cost specified by the Multiply. But like this, like the stronger Multiply card is just like summon cost 3 or lower, cost 4 or lower, cost 5 or lower. So like that limitation quickly goes out of the window. Not to mention, if you have the only card that's like put on like this special list that is like limited to 20 cards, because this card you are supposed to be able to like bring any numbers. It's called Boo Boo Man. It is a collaboration with the Theme Park, but like Boo Boo Man is it has a multiply at for the cost of exactly 3, in which like you have like lots of Fruit Soul that is like cost 3 anyway. So, like it's a like really strong card. And then their extra, even though like she doesn't have like multiply on her own, like when you activate the multiply, she can summon herself with her own effect. And then every time you activate multiply, anything that you don't summon, you can add it to, if you summon something, the rest that is not summoned goes to your hand. So like pretty much, you can empty your whole deck and then like you can have like all your combo pieces just by the virtue of like having like one of the extra at level 2, and then the rest of your multiply just taking your whole deck. And then there's this card called Mangostina, the Brutal Mangostina. Mangostina doesn't have multiply on her own, but as an exchange, when your soul card is on Mangostina, every time you summon something with multiply, the spirit that is summoned, you can put one card from the void to the spirit that is summoned. Of course, it doesn't include the card for maintenance, so you still have to move like the first card from other spirits. But that means your subsequent multiply is pretty much free, and it gives you one more core, and you pretty much can empty your whole field, and then you can have like 10 to 20 cards extra to play anything. And then what they do with that, that's my other favorite card, probably the card that made my first proper Battle Spirits deck, the Monkey 12 God King Hanu Merlin. What Hanu Merlin does is pretty much during your attack step, you can play Axel for free. And then after the Axel effect resolve, usually with Axel, you send a card to your open zone. But instead of sending it to the open zone, Hanu Merlin allows you to summon it. At first, like the concept is basically, okay, so like your Axel has like a second life kind of thing. So like you do like cards in the open zone, you can summon it during your turn, but now you don't have to wait. You can just summon it without paying the cost, and then you can use the Axel for free and then just whack with it afterwards. That's kind of like the concept that it was planned with. And then, of course, some of the Axel and some of the when summon effect is just outright. You choose like any number of like specific cards that is like all of like the useful Axel cards at that time belongs to anyway, and then just like grabs them back to the hand. And then you know what's the thing about summoning? You can deplete the stuff that you have summoned before, so you can pretty much just summon like the new guy that doesn't do anything, but then you just block the card from the card that can salvage stuff, and then you salvage it with the second copy of that card. And then you can pretty much like do a loop of anything that you want to do. And then the other thing is like if you play Axel, then now because you have access to your whole deck, you can pretty much also play this card called Air Eraser, which has an Axel that is pretty similar to Grand Warden, which is like if your opponent is playing a magic card, before the effect is even trying to resolve, you can activate the Axel, negate that magic. Yeah. Like yeah, you'll probably like bring one Air Eraser, one Hanu Merlin, one Magician Monkey Oncot. So Oncot, Oncot gives one symbol to all of your yellow spirit yellow symbol to your whole field. By the way, I forgot like the other conditions, but like pretty much that is supposed to be like the kill turn with Hanu Merlin you were supposed to like just use multiple Oncot and then like summon all of them, and then now everything is like 4 symbols. But of course you can loop it, and then now you can do like crazy numbers. I think like when I was like not good, I was a beginner, I can go to 27. Like imagine if I do it now. Probably I can do more. I just don't want to think about it. I just don't want to make numbers go big just to go big anymore. I've grown as a person as expected. I don't kind of want to sometimes, but like for the most part, I'll just leave that for when I am drunk. I probably wouldn't have improved as much, but yeah, that's kind of like the concept. Like it's kind of like, yeah, the number of symbols that you can go to is like basically depends on how patient you are. Because like I guess like at that time I stopped at 27, not really because the loop stopped, but mostly because like yep, I feel like this is enough. Like I think like I should have stopped like 22 iterations ago, but like I guess like it's a good time to stop. But yeah, that's I got into another tangent because like there's no Ayumu to stop me today. But yeah, I guess like Yeah, also like because there's no Ayumu to kind of like correct my course of thought, I probably just blurted out what was in my head. So if there's anything unclear, do feel free to comment down below. I'll be very happy to clarify them for you. And yeah, I feel like Indra, I think like I should be the last person that is playing it. I don't want to have to deal with the mirror matches. But if you wanted to play it, I guess then what I would have said is basically, I think like the Thunderdrive cards, it is not, I would not say that my build is already like have like the perfect ratio, but I think like it's a ratio that you can start with. Then the rest you can kind of like, then you can kind of like adjust however you need it. Especially I guess like, yeah, the other 10 cards ish is something that you can kind of like adjust to like what your friends are playing. Especially if you're not playing in Asia, right? Because like you will probably play casual anyway. If your friends are fine with you playing aggro, then I guess you can play Indra. I guess it kind of just depends on how chill your friends are with you playing this, I guess. Just like, you know, like now my friends are like already like kind of like accepted that I am playing this deck, but like the first time I brought it out, they were like, "Oh my god, no, why are you playing this? You need to wash your hands after this," kind of reaction. Yeah. He has like Hayael, again, like Hayael, Gallus, Kikoto, Blizzard Wall, King's Command, and Tiael. It's kind of like a negotiable slot. In a way, I guess like if you don't bring like any of like the non-yellow cards, I would probably bring Key Rings, just because it gives you another core and it is a cost to anyway that gives you draw. So I guess it's still a nice thing to have, and if it's removed, you get an extra core. Sweet. Yeah. But because I have Blizzard Wall and King's Command in my deck, I was like, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I shouldn't. In the off chance that they got sent to the trash, the first Keyring wouldn't feel as good as it would have if I could have attacked and draw 3 cards from my deck. Although like 1 card is still cool though. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise the Isle is good. You'll probably want stuff that can get you 2 draws with at least like 3 costs, at most at 3 costs. Like if you have any draw spell that can any of the limited draw spells, if they can give you like at least like 2 to 3 draws like with 3 costs, they wouldn't be useful always, but like when you I guess like going into turn 3 is still kind of fine. So it's still something that you can consider as well. Otherwise, I guess like either if any of your friends plays mill, I think like after images probably. Yeah, I'll probably go with after images, because if after image is drawn, then you can still like use it as an anti-mill. So I guess if you bring only 1, it's still kind of fine. And you have like, if you have anything that can salvage magic, such as Trickster, then you can bring back the after image as well. Otherwise, Gardenia Field also kind of works. I feel like there are some games in which like if I have like protection against this like big number special conditions, might have survived better. So I guess like Gardenia Field is something I'll probably try out next. Maybe taking out Callus in that sense, because also Gardenia Field is a cost 3 2 reduction with 1 draw anyway. So it's kind of like, yeah, it doesn't really disturb your gameplay that much. In a way, it kind of brings you back to the age where of purple aggro, where you kind of just deploy down Skyscraper and Island Route just to draw 1. So I guess that's still fine. Yeah, and then for the Premiere, yeah, I think like Archaea Lancer is definitely something that you don't. It's just something that I want to try out for myself. For the most part, I think it kind of do well. In turn 2, turn 3, I guess it's still pretty fine for you to kind of like spend 2 cores. to draw 1, which is already like valuable enough. More than that, maybe not as much. Yeah, maybe you can try out either bringing more searcher, maybe either bringing more searcher or just the extra Fremia at that point, or just more Grandson. Because like in the end, like the brave that matter the most is the Ice Princess Demon God. Yeah. The rest, I think like most of the cards you can get from like Rebirth of Legend, so you can start playing it as well. But like if you play Ice Princess and lost to it, maybe it wouldn't feel as bad just because it's Ice Princess. Yeah. Yeah, I think like in the end, yeah, I probably should have asked Ayumu to send him the upgraded version of his decks, but I can't be bothered to learn about how Chaos works. Like if you ask me like, is Chaos strong? Yes. How does it work? I don't know. I just know pretty much like roughly like how much time frame I have to beat Chaos before it becomes like really hard to manage. So I kind of have to be able to build my resource to defend myself against it by that time frame. But like other than that, I don't really have like an idea on how Chaos works like on the detail. So I will probably need to wait until Ayumu is back from his holiday. Next week I'll probably invite Wilson as well, so we can get like a more. I mean, like, yeah, I have played with two tournaments with this decks. Well, the Indra deck. The Fremia one is only on the last tournament, because like the previous tournament, we do this thing called like the dual regulation. So like one of them is Eternal, the other one is like one of the limited formats. So either collab format or the Diva Producer Cup. So I use my Diva deck, of course, because I wasn't confident with my other collaboration deck, so I just picked my Diva that is already comfortable enough in my hands. Yeah, so I mean like I have those experiences, but of course like inviting someone that is actually like in the bed, like fighting for his life, probably going to be better. So yeah. Guess as usual, if you have any questions, comments, requests, do feel free to send it to us to our email at therefreshsteppodcast@gmail.com, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, do feel free to comment down below. And yeah, I mean like, of course, like mostly we will be taking requests for like what is in the podcast, but if you want us to make like any specific topic, especially about the rulings or like how some deck might work, yeah, just send it first. We'll see what we can do then. Yeah, I guess it has been I've reached my limit to be talking by myself. Sometimes I was pausing, waiting for Ayumu to answer me, but I guess Ayumu was just a figment of my imagination all along. So maybe I was just maybe all this time I was just like talking to myself, and I did not realize that. So if you guys since you guys are listening to this as a third person, please do comment. If you are listening to this on YouTube, please comment down below. Let me know if I'm actually like on the other, not on this episode. Like in this episode, I'm fully aware that I'm talking to myself. That's also why my thinking is all over the place. But yeah, on other episodes, let me know if like in the other episodes, like I actually like talk to another person. And I'm not just mad and like talking to myself, and I thought that I have a friend all along. Maybe I should be taking the pills after all. So yeah, I guess that has been everything that we can share for this week. We hope that you guys have a nice week going forward, and we'll see you all in the next turn. Bye bye. I'm waiting for Ayumu to reply, but of course it's not there.